Today on What's Next.
I was 65 years old before I ever picked up a brush. I can do that. That's no problem.
I knew that aging was going to be a time of real growth and adventure for me.
A photographer asked me, well, what should I photograph? Well, what do you love?
Welcome back to What's Next. I'm Mark Middleton, and we've got another great show for you today. But honestly, I hope you've also got plans at some point today to turn off the screen and just get outside, because research shows that connecting with nature can not just improve your life, it can actually change your life. Fresh air, sunlight, a short hike, a quick swim, a nap on a blanket in the park, it's all good for us. And no matter how busy we are or where we live, it's important to our overall health and well-being to spend time in nature and disconnect from the overstimulation of everyday modern life. Even a few minutes in nature can boost your immune system, lower the rate of heart disease, help you feel more energized and more focused, and enjoy better sleep. But for most of us, time in nature is not part of our daily to-do list. It's estimated that 70% of the world's population will live in cities by the year 2050. And as the footprints of urban communities continue to grow, most of us have to be intentional about the time that we do spend outdoors. We have to plan for it, or like Jimmy and Leslie Chapman have done, build our lives around it.
This is our cattle ranch, the Double C Bar Ranch. We raise purebred Brahman cattle that we sell to other ranchers for breeding purposes. And we also have commercial cattle that we sell to the restaurant trade and individuals with finished beef. We also have started a blueberry farm, and we do mostly commercial pick, but we also have now added in U-pick, and so on Saturdays and Sunday afternoons during the blueberry season, we then invite the public in to participate in that, where we cook our ranch burgers. We're seeing a strong trend now that people want to know where their food supply is coming from. And they're wanting to buy local. They're wanting to see it happen. And that's what we're trying to do here on the ranch by growing different crops and different things, by having the U-pick and all. We're anxious to bring the public in so that we can help educate them as to where their food supply comes from.
Jimmy is the third generation of his family to work this land. Leslie's family was invited to the ranch for picnics when she was growing up, and she caught Jimmy's eye. They've been married over 50 years and have continued the family ranching legacy with their own children and grandchildren.
We raised our kids right on the ranch, working hard. They learned to work as children. They really, and helped us a lot. We have 4 kids. And all 4 kids married and have now 12 grandchildren.
We enjoy it. It's a pleasure to work, because now I'm not just a dad, I work with my boys and have done that all their lives. And now I've got grandkids that some of them are older, and now they're spending their summers working full time on the ranch. And why do you want that leg back?
It makes them here longer and a little filler.
Part of what Chapman loves is working with family, and part of it is just being on the ranch itself.
The biggest part is just the pleasure and the enjoyment of we're around animals all the time. We're around just God's creation. And so one of the things that I do is I like to do oil paintings. Well, I get to see that every day. I get to see the nature, I get to see the trees, and the type of oil paintings that I do is native Florida. A lot of people go to a job, they're inside a building all day, they don't get to see it, they don't get to see the wildlife, they don't get to see the animals, and we get to see that every day. So it's just enjoyment to be able to experience that every day of our life.
But Brahmans and brushes don't necessarily go together. Painting became an outlet for Jimmy much later in life, thanks to a chance encounter and a willingness to give something new a try.
I've always enjoyed to look at art. Never thought about painting. Was the last thing in my mind that I would ever do. But I sat at a flea market and watched a guy paint one day. And I just watched the guy and stood at a distance, and he asked, was I an artist? And I said, oh, goodness, no. But we just struck up a conversation, and I said, but it doesn't look that hard. I could do that. And so that night, I started painting a little and went and bought some stuff and painted a painting. And ever since then, I was 65 years old before I ever picked up a brush. That's just always been, I can do that. That's no problem. You may get banged around a little bit trying it, but you can do it. Just make yourself do it. It's just life. That's the way life is. And if I ever outgrow that, I just will hang it up.
Man, what a life the Chapmans have built for themselves and their family. There are so many takeaways from their example, the benefits of working outdoors and the power of intergenerational connection. But the takeaway that's most powerful to me, because it's one we can all embrace, is Jimmy, at age 65, having never even thought about painting, being so inspired by someone that he saw at a flea market that he went out that night, bought supplies, and pursued a passion that he never even knew that he had. He was open to new influences, and he acted upon them. That is a very growing Boulder kind of move.
Why am I getting up out of this perfectly good cockpit onto the wing of a plane?
Welcome back to What's Next. Caroline Paul is a former firefighter turned best-selling author. Her TED Talk, To Raise Brave Girls, Encourage Adventure, has now been viewed more than 2 million times and counting. And her latest book is called Tough Broad, From Boogie Boarding to Wing Walking, How Outdoor Adventure Improves Our Lives as We Age. And she wrote it because as she entered her 60s, she began not just noticing, but being influenced by the ageist messaging that we're all bombarded with. She resented the toxic cultural belief that we all, but especially women, become irrelevant as they age. So she sought out older women who are defying that stereotype by living lives that are filled with outdoor adventure.
When I went on my quest to find out, exactly how outdoor adventure can help us, I was really interested in how these women, use the outdoors as an antidote against that. And the truth is, there's no magic. These people are not like stronger or better than we are. They just simply go outside and engage in an activity. And just doing that is a rebuke to all the messaging, because come on, my mom got on a bike when she was 62 and she had very little outdoor experience, but just getting on a bike at 62 is kind of laughing in the face of all the messaging that says, hey, you're not fun anymore. You don't want to be exhilarated anymore. You're certainly not physically vital anymore. And there was my mom entering 100-mile races and having really the time of her life, honestly.
Give us a tip, if you will, on how we can get started. How can those who are just sitting on the couch, don't have the motivation, the energy to get up and get going, how can we embark on an adventurous life?
Well, first know that it doesn't have to be something that's high adrenaline. You don't have to jump out of a plane and skydive. You can. I'd be psyched if you did, for sure. But one of my Cynthia Hicks, who actually did. She's the one that went walking on the wing of a plane, which I eventually had to do as well, since she had done it. And she was 72. And I was not very happy about doing it, frankly, because I was a pilot and thought, why am I getting up out of this perfectly good cockpit onto the wing of a plane? But it turned out to be a really eye-opening and mind-blowing experience, a very odd outdoor adventure. But she told me the way she finds her adventures, and she goes on a lot of mini adventures. No surprise, she had already bungee jumped. She was a scuba diver, but she simply types in to the search bar on her computer, something fun to do here. And whenever she travels, to see if there's something new that will pique her adventurous spirit. And another thing I learned is that enlist a friend, because I interviewed 2 people who were learning to swim, and one woman didn't actually accomplish it because her fear of swimming was too much. And I completely get it. Sometimes an outdoor adventure isn't for you. She still learned a lot on the way to trying to learn to swim. And I think it was a real eye-opening and heart-opening experience for her. But I also talked to Vijaya Srivastava, and she had learned to swim at a later age with no outdoor experience behind her. And I think the reason she succeeded and is an avid swimmer today is that she enlisted a friend. And when you enlist a friend, you feel not only are you sharing with somebody, and if you're nervous about, in this case, drowning, which Vijaya certainly was, you can have a friend to help, cheerlead you, and you're accountable to. So, enlist a friend. And lastly, say yes when somebody offers, like, let's go on a walk. Let's go here, take my bike. Can we go around the block? Just say yes.
Just say yes. 3 words that really should be a mantra for all older adults, because saying yes invites people, possibility, and opportunity into our lives. Saying yes builds and maintains relationships, leads to lifelong learning, overall well-being, and the kind of outdoor adventure that leads to overall health and happiness. Another person that understands the importance of saying yes to new experiences, especially in the face of great struggle, is Martha Carswell. Martha was an athlete. In fact, she was one of the best, but everything changed when an accident shattered her body and her spirit. It took 2 years for her body to recover, and longer than that for her spirit. And it may never have if she hadn't said yes to the healing powers of the outdoors. Here's Bill Schaefer with more.
Almost any day, this is where you'll find Martha Carswell.
Good girl, good girl. I love the water. I've got to be around the water. What's my story? Gosh, this room holds a lot of it.
It's an attic converted to a loft and filled with reminders of a very different life, a life dominated by competitive athletics. She was as competitive as they come.
I started playing basketball, and this was my first high school uniform.
The short little point guard from Clinch County, Georgia, had a heart as big as the ball. But even she was surprised when just a few years later, she became one of the true pioneers of the game.
We formed the first women's pro basketball team. It was called the Phoenix Pink Panthers out in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. And we are in the Women's Hall of Fame, Basketball Hall of Fame.
But the highlight of all, the one that meant the most to her, was competing in the prestigious Kona Ironman in Hawaii.
That was the happiest day of my life. My greatest accomplishment.
She didn't have much time to celebrate. Weeks after the happiest day came the worst.
Then I was coming down a hill and probably going 20 miles an hour on the bike, and a van came around the corner on the wrong side of the road. You know how you'll take a curve on the wrong side? And I couldn't stop, or I guess they couldn't stop either, and I went face first through the windshield. I threw my arm up in front of my face and turned my head. I can remember thinking, goodbye. I mean, I said that to myself. I thought I was dead. I almost cut this arm off, and it knocked all my teeth out over this way and cut all this side of my face up really bad.
It took 2 years of rehab for her broken bones to heal, but it's the scars you can't see from traumatic brain injury that have been the most devastating.
I hate to get emotional about it, but it changed my whole life. It did. It changed everything. That accident changed my whole personality. Well, that enthusiasm you heard me talk about before, it's gone.
Martha was lost.
Okay.
Until she found her way to the water.
What happened is the doctors told me I had to find something that was a lot less impact on me. That's how I got into kayaking. That's what I did that about 10 years ago. I got it and I did a lot of kayak racing. I was state champion, women's state champion in kayaking.
The same comfort she used to find in a pair of running shoes, she now gets from slipping into a kayak.
See that big bird? Look at that bird. There's some fish down there too. Look at those fish.
It helped her put the pieces back together, to the point where now, 2 decades later, she's starting to have some old familiar feelings again, flashes of restlessness that make her believe that perhaps this is not the end of her story, but the beginning of a whole new chapter of her life.
I'm just not ready to give up. I want to have a lot more experiences. I need a big challenge.
You got to play with the gators and the snakes, and you have to become one with the scene.
Welcome back to What's Next. I'm Mark Middleton, and of course you've heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, or if it's a Clyde Butcher original, thousands of dollars. Clyde is considered by many to be the foremost landscape photographer working in America today. He's often compared to the legendary Ansel Adams, who actually inspired Clyde to leave behind a career in architecture and pursue his passion for photography. Much of Clyde's work is focused on the Everglades in Florida. He's seen and captured the beauty of natural Florida in a way that very few have. It's made him a passionate conservationist dedicated to not just producing stunning photographic art, but also to changing minds and impacting policy in order to preserve a unique and valuable ecosystem for all.
The problem with photographing in Florida, you have to get out of your car and get in the water. You got to play with the gators and the snakes, and you have to become one with the scene. And not many people wanted to do that. A photographer asked me, well, what should I photograph? Well, what do you love? So you have to do what you love. And I've always loved nature. I mean, I can't believe how beautiful this world is, and we have no respect for it. And that's what I'm trying to do with my work, is get to the point where people could understand how beautiful it is. When I started doing the work on the Everglades, the politicians had no idea what the Everglades were about. They just thought it was a swamp. They didn't have any idea it was a beautiful place. When I take people out in the swamp, I mean, it opens their eyes up to nature, because the Everglades hasn't really been touched by man. I mean, it's like it was. And that's what I'm trying to bring to people, how much energy the world has and how much beauty the world has. So I try to tell people that, we're all responsible for this world. We have a special place here, and I don't think people realize it. I don't know if people understand where their air comes from, where their water comes from. It's pretty simple. I mean, we just need more trees.
Clyde Butcher is just one of many great artists throughout history who have been inspired by the beauty of nature. And today, with nature under constant assault from mankind, it is artists like Clyde who have become some of the most passionate advocates working to protect and preserve that beauty. Which brings us to today's Bold Social. You no doubt know the name Jane Goodall. Considered the world's foremost expert on chimpanzees, Goodall lived for years among chimps in Tanzania to create a trailblazing study on primates. Today, she's in her 90s, still travels 300 days a year to spread a message of hope and action before it's too late.
The planet's in a mess. It's in a flipping mess, and environmentally, socially, and politically. And so many people are losing hope. And so if we all lose hope, then we fall into apathy and then we do nothing. Because if you feel there's no hope, why bother to do anything? So my job now, my mission and my passion is to give people hope that if we get together soon, we know what we should be doing to slow down climate change and loss of biodiversity. But we're continually up against vested interests of corporations and governments. We just have to be prepared to fight for what's right.
Welcome back to What's Next. Have you checked our new streaming service out yet? Watch.growingbolder.com is here, providing you 24/7 free access to all of our inspiring and entertaining content. Sign up today and keep growing bolder. And I hope you're following us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, where we love to hear and then share your thoughts, like this one. What's your favorite way to connect with nature? For me, it's something physical with family or friends, something challenging like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, climbing boulders in Colorado, a vigorous hike, or a dip in a cold mountain stream. And of course, I swim 3 mornings every week at 5 a.m. where I get to see the sunrise. The outdoors and the ways that we can enjoy it are as diverse as we all are, but the benefits are universal. As John Muir, the great naturalist and environmental guardian, said, "Into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul." Until next time, make the great outdoors part of your What's Next.